Hare Krishna. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet Nashtraprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Hare Krishna. Welcome Ruchi Mataji and Manasi Ganga Mataji. Nice to have both of you. So we are in Canto 4, Chapter 15, Appearance and Coronation of Maharaj Prithu. And we are reading from text 23 to 26, and then we'll be concluding the chapters. Text 23. Would anybody like to read text 23? Okay, I can start and then maybe devotees can join. Tasmat parokshe asmat upashrutyani alam karishyatha stotram apichya vachaha sati uttama shloka gunanuvade jujupsitam na satvayanti sabhyaha. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. O gentle reciters, offer such prayers in due course of time, when the qualities of which you have spoken actually manifest themselves in me. The gentle who offer prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead do not attribute such qualities to a human being who who does not actually have them. Purport. Gentle devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead know perfectly well who is God and who is not. Non-devotee impersonalists, however, who have no idea what God is and who never offer prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, are always interested in accepting a human being as God and offering such prayers to Him. There is a difference between a devotee and a demon. This is the difference between a devotee and a demon. Demons manufacture their own gods, or a demon himself claims to be God, following in the footsteps of Ravana and Hiranyakashipu. Although Prithu Maharaj was factually an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he rejected those praises because the qualities of the Supreme Person were not yet manifest in him. He wanted to stress that one who does not actually possess these qualities should not try to engage his followers and devotees in offering him glory for them, even though these qualities might be manifest in the future. If a man who does not factually possess the attributes of a great personality engages his followers in praising him with the expectation that such attributes will develop in the future, that sort of praise is actually an insult. Matajis, would any of you like to read text 24?
Hare Krishna Mataji, I'm driving, so this is not really a good time. So I'm
And
sorry.
you, Mataji. Hari Krishna. Thank you for
Hare
joining. Okay. So, Ruchi Mataji, would you like to read?
Okay, yes, I can read. Text 24. Mahadgunam Atmani Kartam Isa Ka Savake Savakte Satopite Swayabhavishyam Iti Vipralabdho Janavasam Punati No Veda. Translation: How could an intelligent man, competent enough to possess such exalted qualities, allow his followers to praise him if he did not actually have them? Praising a man by saying that if he were educated, he might have become a great scholar or great personality is nothing but a process of cheating. A foolish person who agrees to accept such praise does not know that such words simply insult him. Prithu Maharaj was an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as Lord Brahma and other demigods had already testified when they had presented the king with many heavenly gifts. Because he had just been coronated, however, he could not manifest his godly qualities in action. Therefore, he was not willing to accept the praise of the devotees. So-called incarnations of Godhead should therefore take lessons from the behavior of King Prithu. Demons without godly qualities should not accept false praise from their followers. Text 25. Prabhavo hi atmana skrutam jagat sanyapi vishvata himanta parmodara porsham vavikrahritam. Can you scroll? As the person with a sense of honor and magnanimity does not like to hear about his abominable actions, a person who is very famous and powerful does not like to hear himself praised. Text 26. Vayam tvajita lokesu ityadapi vavidvampi karmampi kathatatmananam gata visham balavat. Translation: King Prithu continued, My dear devotees, headed by the sutta just now, I am not very famous for my personal activities because I have not done anything praiseworthy you could glorify. Therefore, how could I engage you in praising my activities exactly like children? Purport was in the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 4th canto, 15th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam entitled King Prithu's Appearance and Coronation.
Thank you so much, Ruchi Mataji, for reading.
Can you increase the volume? I cannot hear you very well.
Manasikanga Mataji, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
So,
I can hear you.
clearly?
I don't know
I
my.
can hear you clearly.
Maybe I have a problem with my. Yes, sorry, I forgot to put the booster on. Yeah, that's why.
Now, is it better, Ruchi Mataji?
Yeah, now it's better. I forgot that I have a booster. This is forget everything, almost everything I forget.
Okay, good. So, we have been reading about the glories of Prithu Maharaj, and so I would I will say something about the chapters that we have read so far. So we have been reading about the pastimes of Dhruva Maharaj, and this is continuation of description of his genealogy. So prior to this chapter, we read like about the various kings who came and who were like sons of Dhruv Maharaj after he passed away, after he went back to Godhead. Like so, in his lineage, there was a king named Anga, and Anga was very pious, and he was married to Suniti, who was the daughter of death personified. So I really don't understand what's the meaning of daughter of death personified, but Prabhupada does not explain further in the purport. So because of his association with Suniti, who was daughter of death personified, he had a son who was completely atheistic. He was very atrocious, and um, his name was Vena. And Prabhupada writes many, many purports following the description of King Vena that it is very important for a state to have an able king who is a good leader, who believes in the Supreme Personality of Godhead and rules his citizens on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The king should think of himself as a representative of the Supreme Lord, as an instrument of the Supreme Lord to uplift the spiritual life and progress of his citizens. Unfortunately, King Vena was not such a representative. So the sages, the Brahmanas in the kingdom, noticed what King Vena was doing, and they approached him with a request that he must abide by the principles of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And when they saw that King Vena was unable to accept their good instruction, they decided to kill him. So, how did the sages kill King Vena? The sages just uttered mantras, and by the power of their mantras, King Vena was immediately, he left his body immediately. Now, the sages noticed that because of the lack of a king who was capable, the rogues and thieves were increasing in the kingdom. There was more violence. So they gave more thought to the matter, and they decided that the semen that was coming in the family of Dhruv Maharaj was actually very potent, because in those days and even today, like many Brahmanas and Kshatriyas follow the samskaras so that the child becomes very capable of accepting spiritual life. So they became they uh, they all started churning the dead body. Actually, the first they churned the thighs of King Vena, which his mother had carefully preserved using drugs and ointments. And then there was a personality called Bahuka who emerged from the thighs of King Vena. And immediately after that, they started churning the arms of the dead king. And by such churning, Prithu, who was a partial incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, took birth. And Prithu Maharaj was a Shaktya avatar. Shaktya means they have a specific Shakti or potency which manifests through them in its almost in its entirety, in its fullness. So he was a Shaktya avatar, and he was carrying the ruling potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That means he was going to be a ideal king. So Prithu Maharaj first took birth, and then from his arms there was another personality who took birth. Her name was Archie. Archie was a plenary expansion of the goddess of fortune. So wherever the Lord incarnates, his counterpart, the goddess of fortune, also incarnates. So it was pronounced that Archie would be marrying King Prithu in future. So, in this chapter, what we have read so far is that when the great demigods like Brahma, Indra, Chandra, like all these great demigods, when they realized that the Supreme Personality of Godhead had taken birth on the Earth planet, he had incarnated on the Earth planet, they all came, um, and the sages coronated King Prithu, and all of the demigods and all of the citizens from not only Earth planet but also the heavenly planets came to congratulate him with gifts. They all brought flowers, and they brought one of them, actually, it said that, like, he also brought a Sudarshan Disc. And Prabhupada explains that that Sudarshan Disc is not the Sudarshan Disc of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's a different form of, it's a partial representation of the Sudarshan Disc. Prabhupada writes like that. And then there's, like, some persons offered an umbrella. I think it was Varuna who offered an umbrella, and some of the demigods, they offered mystic powers to King Prithu. They offered slippers to King Prithu. They offered a crown. They offered a helmet. They offered place to sit for him. So all these different items they offered to King Prithu in order to glorify and congratulate him for becoming the ruler of this planet. So actually, King Prithu, being an incarnation of the Supreme Lord, he did not need any of these things. But it is actually for the benefit of those who offered it to him that he accepted all of those gifts. And there was personalities who were offering him praise. And Prabhupada writes in the purports that we read yesterday that one must not accept somebody as the Supreme Personality of Godhead without consulting the scriptures. So Prabhupada writes that in Kali Yuga, nowadays, we see that there are so many incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. People claim that I'm the Kalki avatar, please come and worship me. And some gurus claim that, I am God, you please come and worship me, and, you will benefit. But Prabhupada writes that one should be very, very careful when such propaganda is being made, because without authorization from the scriptures, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, like fall, like, his incarnations are predicted within the scriptures. So one need not falsely claim or falsely believe someone to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead if they do not match the prediction of the scriptures. So even Lord Buddha and Kalki, who appeared after the after Vyasadev wrote down and compiled the Vedas, but their name, their place of birth, their parents' names, everything, and their features, their personality is all described in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam and other scriptures. So Prabhupada cautions his readers again and again, because we see nowadays, I have seen myself in my life, where I was invited to come, the incarnation of Kalki has come, so please come and, offer respects and take their prasad. So I went actually to one of those programs, but thanks to Srila Prabhupada's teachings, I did not believe that he was Kalki avatar. After a few years, that same Kalki avatar was put behind bars for his propaganda and whatever activities he did. So we have to see through the eyes of scriptures. That's what Prabhupada is saying. And through all of his writings, Prabhupada is describing how Krishna is. Who is Krishna? How is he? And how are we to approach him? Approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in these last verses, actually, there is a lot of description about how to properly praise a person. Although Prithu Maharaj is the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he's being praised by the Gandharvas and the heavenly citizens, still he does not accept such praise, because he's saying that I have not exhibited any of those qualities, then why are you appreciating me like that? And Prabhupada is saying that, if a person does not possess qualities and we appreciate them for those qualities, it is a form of an insult. So, all good qualities that any person has, and even all bad qualities that any person may have, the root of them is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is only through Him and His potencies that any of us is able to exhibit any good qualities. All of our devotion, all of our good qualities are coming from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because we are His part and parcels. So any glorification of anyone's quality is actually glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is only by His mercy that somebody is able to, um, you know, draw very nicely. Somebody is able to govern very nicely. Somebody is so powerful. Somebody is so beautiful. It's all because of the mercy of the Supreme Lord. And even if somebody is exhibiting bad qualities, all of such qualities are also coming from Krishna, but not directly from Krishna, but from his through his Maya Shakti, Maya potency. The spirit soul, in its original form, is completely blissful, full of knowledge, and full of happiness, and eternal. But such spirit soul, when they turn away their attention from Krishna, they become covered by Maya. And when they become covered by Maya, all of the bad qualities start to manifest. It is just like the sun. When someone is turning towards the sun, they will not be able to see darkness because they only see light. And as soon as they turn away from the sun, they'll see the shadows. So, in one sense, we can say that this shadow is also coming from the sun, because in the absence of the sun, there is shadow or darkness. So, in that way, everything is actually manifesting from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, when we see good qualities of a particular person, we can understand that they have been blessed by the Lord. It is only His potency that is being exhibited through that particular human being. So Prithu Maharaj is requesting the sages, he is requesting the heavenly damsels, the denizens, the heaven, not to appreciate him for qualities that he has not yet exhibited. So in the chapters following this, we have completed chapter 15 today. But in the chapters following this, we'll see how Prithu Maharaj actually protects his citizens, how he actually rules, and in such a way that his citizens not only are spiritually elevated, but they also have no material pangs. He makes him completely happy, both materially and spiritually, in his government. So I'll pause here, and I'll wait for any comments or questions from Ruchi Mataji. If you also would like to share something, please share. Ruchi Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, I cannot hear. Is someone speaking now or no?
Mataji, I was just waiting for Ruchi Mataji.
Okay.
Okay, so Manasikanga Mataji, if you would like to say something.
Yeah, it was, I like the analogy where you had said that everything comes from the Lord. All the good qualities that are exhibited in a person comes from the Lord. That and you use the example of the sun, and even the shadow. You know, it's coming from the Lord. I found that very interesting. That that all the good qualities that people have are just expressions of the Lord's good qualities. It's a very nice thought to think, to meditate on. And I'm just thinking back to some previous classes where I've heard that, and how do you nurture good qualities, or how do you get the good qualities from, you know, if let's say you're someone that exhibits a lot of bad qualities, or you're missing specific good qualities, and it's by serving someone who has those qualities. And that, you know, of course, serve the Lord, and you'll get those qualities, or serve gurus, or someone who exhibits all those good qualities. And that's an interesting thought as well, to I guess when you serve someone, you have respect for them, and when you put someone in high esteem and you respect them and you're serving them, I guess those, I don't understand the actual process, but it makes sense. It makes sense that that ultimately, you know, if you're serving that person and you're watching and they're exhibiting whatever the quality is, that ultimately you can attain that quality if you're paying attention, if you're, I don't know, maybe you know the exact process of how that happens, but it just makes sense that it does happen. So if you want, yeah. So thank you very much for reading both messages. It was very very nice.
Yeah, thank you, Manasikanga Mataji. Yeah, it's very true. When we serve somebody, we acquire their qualities. So, you know, just like, you know, you are at your school and your children are listening to you, they're hearing what you're teaching, and very soon they will become more proficient in whichever subject you're teaching. Perhaps you're, you know, maybe you're teaching them English, and then by hearing and listening to you and watching you do what you do, they'll become more proficient in English, slowly, like that. It's the same process even in spiritual life. By hearing from the spiritual master or a spiritual authority, by seeing their example and how they conduct themselves, we become like, start to acquire their qualities. So
Thank
it is,
you.
yeah, it is described in Bhagavad Gita, tatvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. So we have to inquire from them submissively, render service to them, and then uh, by that process, like, we start to acquire spiritual qualities.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Matajis. So the idea is that we'll be reading every day. Uh, but we'll keep the classes shorter. That way I can commit to reading every day. I'm going to try. Sometimes I have service. On those days I have to miss the classes, but on most days, fortunately, like, I don't have service, so I have we have been able to read.
Thank you. Hopefully I'll be able to join as well.
It's between
So
5 and 5:30.
5 and 5:30. Okay, I'll try to earmark those times.
Thank you, Mataji. It's
Thank you.
always a pleasure to have you. Hare Krishna. So we'll end here. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna.